remember to turn on your microphone when speaking. For those that are participating via Zoom, I ask you to state your name when you're making a comment or asking a question. If you turn on your camera, that's also helpful. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If a member of the public would like to make a comment at today's meeting, they can fill out a request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with that. For anybody here, if you parked in the garage, don't forget to validate. If you purchase a transit ticket, MAG staff can help you with that. Also, MAG supplying hearing assisted devices for the hearing impaired. All right. Agenda item number 2 is a call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes is generally provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exemption to this limit. I have not received any requests to speak for the call to the audience. MAG also provides an opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting are shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Gordon, have we received any written comments for the call to the audience?
No written comments received either.
Thank you. All right, moving into agenda item number 3. This is the approval, the February 5th, 2025 meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to review those meeting minutes. Gordon will pull them up and scroll through them. If you have to quick refresh your memory, please do. If any members of the committee have any questions on the meeting minutes or any comments, please feel free to speak up. All right, do we have any comments from the committee members regarding meeting minutes or any questions? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dan Nissen with City of Peoria, and I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Can I get a second motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ryan. We have 2 motions. We'll move into a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. Let's go down the line, starting with Avondale. Or excuse me, ADOT first.
No worries. This is Mike and Blaker. Good afternoon with ADOT present.
How do you vote on the minutes?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Thank you. Avondale? Jimmy, you there yet? Buckeye?
Good afternoon. This is Josh Ford. Yes.
Chandler?
Yes.
El Mirage?
Yes.
Thank you. Florence? Doesn't look like Florence is present. Gilbert?
Yes.
Glendale?
Yes.
Goodyear? Maricopa County?
Yes.
Mesa?
Yes.
Peoria?
Yes.
Phoenix?
Yes.
Thank you. Scottsdale?
This is Roy Harrington. Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Tolleson, and Youngtown. Is there anyone on who I didn't call or came on later? If not, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, we're going to move right into items proposed to be heard, cases under consideration. This case carried forward from 2024. This case 24-12, revised section 626, corrosion protective coating of sanitary sewer manholes and access structures. This one's brought to us from Phoenix. Matthew was heading this up. Matthew, last I recall, we were going to polish up this last draft. There were a couple minor little changes. I know before you get started, Matthew, I know I distributed this throughout, my colleagues, and I didn't receive any opposition to it or any negative feedback. So with that, Matthew, can you provide us a quick update on any changes that were made?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. We have no changes on our end. I think we're ready to go to move forward.
Okay, so we have the polished, final polished version ready to put up for vote.
That is correct.
So with that, is there any committee members that have any questions or comments regarding this case? No questions, not even a good job comment? Well, Matthew, you guys did a great job. City of Phoenix did a great job pulling the resources together and revising this section. I know I appreciate it. So with no
Thank you,
comments,
Mr. Chairman.
you're welcome. With no comments or questions from the committee members, at this point, I'll entertain a motion. This is up for action. So I'll entertain a motion, and Matthew, you're more than welcome to motion for approval.
So do you want me to second that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we don't have a first yet, but if you would like to be the first, and since it's your case and you support it, if you want a motion for approval, you're more than welcome to.
I'll motion for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Matthew. Can I get a second motion?
This is Warren. I'll second.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate that. With that, we'll move into a vote.
Okay. This is case 2412. And starting with ADOT,
Yes.
Avondale, Buckeye.
Yes.
Was that Buckeye?
Yes, that was. Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Florence, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
thank you, Tempe, Tolleson, Youngtown. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank everybody. I thank City of Phoenix again for their work they put on that and the resources they pulled together. I thank all the committee members that reviewed it and had comments to provide. Once again, this committee is made up of all of us, so I appreciate your guys' input. We'll move into agenda item number 5. This is case 24-13, proposed revisions to section 620. This is the cast in place concrete pipe, the acronym of CIP-CP. From what I remember from the last meeting, we had an acronym modification, which generated some other corrections. We're not going to call them miscellaneous corrections. We'll include them in the whole package. And then there was some abbreviations and whatnot, but you want to go ahead and give us an update on that, Warren?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Not in the packet, but as a addition that I think Gordon has pulled up, we made some revisions late last week. working with Jared with Blue Core and his geotech team. It was all really about how best to handle that section regarding excavation and what to do with those expansive soils in that paragraph that we've been talking about. So I think we are close in what we've come up with for that additional section, and that's not the latest. That's, we might want to pull up the one on your link on the right. Yeah. So in all cases, we've added that section, or in the first section, general, a geotech investigation is required, and for pretty much all cases, to properly assess the soil conditions. So that sets the stage for what to do if you do encounter different types of soil conditions during excavation. So that's new, that one statement where Gordon is showing there. And then further down, pretty much remove that sentence there regarding wetting the soil, which already occurs below during the placement. So you're going to want to keep the soil conditions adequately moistened during a concrete pour anyway, so that it doesn't get sucked out anyway. So that's already there. So that's struck. And then that new paragraph, being consistent with ASTM and the testing methods about with the plasticity index, PI. In one case, if it's greater than the 15th, then you're going to do that one-dimensional swell test or collapse of soils. And then since the ASTM has more than a couple different bullet points there, we've specified exactly what method. It's the minimum vertical stress required to prevent swelling must be run. And then if that magnitude of swell is greater than the crushing strength of the pipe, then again, with all the appropriate factors of safety determined by the pipe manufacturer and or structural engineer, then additional remedial measure must be taken, determined by the engineer. Now, that's not really a one-size-fits-all situation out there. So it's talked about whether we could have something as a default, but the feeling of the group was there is not really a one-size-fits-all. Could be maybe they make a more robust pipe. Could be a site-specific situation. Maybe they go to RCP. So there's different scenarios there that the team felt like that's the appropriate measure. Is then you get back to the engineer, and then they determine what's the best situation for that case. So that's where we're at now with this situation when we encounter the expansive soils. Hoping we're close, but that's.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
that last minute, the middle revision. So a lot of the committee members obviously hadn't had a chance to.
Haven't had it.
Yeah,
So we have opportunity to talk a little more again at the water and sewer.
great. Yep.
So we can see how close everyone feels.
Yep. So this will be brought up with the water and sewer working group again, and then I suggest any of the committee members that are not part of that working group to at least put eyes on this and run through it. Do we have any questions or comments from committee members?
Yeah.
Um,
Flagging you down.
I just wanted to mention before you get into it, the revised version of this case and a couple of other Warren's cases are posted on the meeting webpage. So if you want to review those after the meeting, you can.
Thank you, Mark. Right.
Yeah, so most of the changes here are pretty simple with the abbreviation or the acronyms. I'm curious in section 620.3.1, that second paragraph, what prompted the request to change that language? Has there been a certain problem that we've identified that we're saying we got to change this language?
Not that we were aware of, because it's been in place. I think from last year's discussions, we had different situations where we kind of thought, okay, well, if you do, then you're going to go back and excavate 6 to 8 inches and replace and compact. And from what I'd heard from Blue Core is they have really never done that, the ponding or other methods. So it seemed like that needed to be revisited, and so we've had subsequent discussions, and like I said, some different drafts. So this is what has led to that new paragraph.
It seems like it's getting less prescriptive here. Instead of saying, hey, do exactly this, it's just saying, well, do something. Right? And I guess there's got to be a reason why we're implementing the change, and I'm still trying to understand that, I guess.
Well, and I think beforehand, we didn't really specify, okay, if you encounter expansive soils, it says to do the thorough moistening. But now we've said, we've given it more specifics. You do your soil testing, if your PI is greater than this, and you're working with the manufacturer and the engineer. So it's given some direction. It's not specific to what to do, because that has to be determined by the engineer, structural engineer. And so like I said, is that
Did tighten it up a little bit.
it's tightened up, but it isn't for if you encounter something in the field.
Yeah.
I think it,
So if we're going to do a PI test or
you know,
some of the other measures taken there, is that prescribed a certain quantity of PI test per certain a PI test per one whole project per 1,000 linear feet per what? How do we dictate?
Oh, you're looking for frequency then?
Well, I'm curious if we're gonna.
per site for the application in that one. Because you're right, because we're talking about could be an underground storage tank or it could be a long reach of pipe
Right.
area.
Right. So I'm curious if we're going to state that you go through this PI test to identify the parameters, then I guess the next question that I know an inspector is going to ask me is, well, how many tests do I do? Is this test valid for a certain length? Like, where does it apply? So I guess that'd be something I'd be interested in hearing more about.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You look at some, I'll just throw a number out there, 500 horizontal feet. Something like that, one PI test
Or if it's a tank, it may only be specific to that.
to that specific area,
If
right?
it's a pipe length, then
If you're running 1,000 feet of pipe, I don't.
Okay.
Have you guys run 1,000, has Blue Cord put down 1,000 feet of continuous pipe?
don't know if Jared is on the call. Yeah, Jared is on the call. Jared, do you have any thoughts on that topic?
Jared, you're muted if you're trying to speak. All right, well,
Yeah.
this can be brought back.
Yeah.
That question can be brought back to the working group. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that.
What we need is good input. Thank you.
Yep. Any other
Hey.
committee members have any comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Hey, thanks. This is Jose Rodriguez with the City of Phoenix. Warren, the only suggestion I would have with the revised language that talks about the new ASTM, I looked at that ASTM. There's 3 particular test methods under D4546. It'd be ideal if the spec can actually tell you which one to follow. Because I believe you can do either test A or test B to calculate swell pressure test or swell pressure.
Yeah.
Just
Specifically, the method of minimum vertical stress. Does that help? So if you're looking at that first paragraph, when I was reading it, the method of minimum vertical stress required.
so it doesn't matter if it's a condition following test A or test B. I think it just for purpose of consistency, be best if one can be elected. If it does, I don't know enough to say, right? But I was trying to read it and kind of the same boat with Ryan. If we need to implement it, and the question comes, which test method to follow?
So we need to look, what I'm hearing, Jose, is we need to look at the ASTM and see which method inside that ASTM. Am I hearing?
Yes, correct. Inside ASTM D4546, there's 3 ways to perform the test. And I think 2 of them can be used to calculate swell pressure. So if both are acceptable, then we should say either test A or test B, right? Or method A or method B.
Yeah, I think it's something worth looking into.
Fair enough. I'll specify, see if we can at least say that, because I thought about that too. And then as I read it, I saw how the geotech had suggested that sentence. I said, but I was wondering that too. So all right, we'll talk more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, we'll move into agenda item number 6. This is due cases for 2025. Right off the bat is the miscellaneous corrections. for case 25-01. This will go all calendar year. We'll vote on it at the end. There was a new addition for the Eads and Grimm soil test. I always thought that this was a test for like ratios of lime and soil for stabilization, but I haven't really dove into this one. I'm not the subject matter expert here, but if I can get whoever brought this case, do we know who brought this case? Warren,
I believe this was Jose Brown.
Jose, can you give us just a little brief background on this Eads and Grimm and the correction?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in kind of reviewing section 309 for one project, I was looking into the test methods that was called out in the specification and which ASTM we needed to follow to review a mix design for lime stabilization. And in looking at that, I realized that the SAM that is called out or connected with the Eads and Grimm's test is not correct. That particular ASTM, it's something to do with metal painting inspections. But I was able to find the actual correct reference to the Eads and Grimm's test method. And you are correct, Gene. That test method is to determine the appropriate amount of lime to reach a certain pH level.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, this is going way back. I've lost, I forgot more than I ever knew about that. I did do a quick search though through the Compass Room, and have you looked at the D 6276-19?
I didn't. I tried to look at it and nothing else popped out too, but which one is that? 62?
Take a quick gander at the 6276-19, and then we'll come back and revisit it. It may not even be applicable, to be honest with you, Jose.
Okay, no, I'll take a look at it. I am pretty comfortable with that reference to C977 because that's a reference that's also called out in section 309. And it just happens to be an appendix of that method. So
okay.
But it's worth investigating other reference that may potentially apply. So
yes. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments on miscellaneous corrections? All right, we'll move it. Jose will follow up with us on that for the next meeting, prior to the next meeting, and we'll get more input on that. So moving on to agenda item number 7, this is case 25-02, precast reinforced concrete box culvert. I believe this is a new case. Yeah, 3/5/2025. This is brought to us by Chandler Warren. You want to give an update on this case?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did discuss this at the Water and Sewer Group last month. Had a fair amount of comments on that. And through that discussion, we've made a couple revisions. I don't know if Adriana's online, but there's both a specification, a new specification, 737, and 2 details for this new concrete box culvert. Kind of marries up the requirements in the ASTM, some ADOT, and then MAG, trying to pull together a detail that works and has all the information. Through some of the discussions in the working group, it kind of got into that area in that on 551-1, that haunch area. And again, this is intended to be universal for any manufacturer if they can meet these requirements. So that haunch area, there's a new asterisk indicating below that came out of working group discussions. Basically, if it haunches with other dimensions are used, see section 12.7 in ASTM for guidance on modified steel areas. We're trying not to have to go to ASTM, obviously, too much with this, but yeah, we're still working through how best to make it universal. And similar with the table on the left for all the different sizes, we've added a statement at the bottom of the table, referring back to ASTM for, regarding reinforcement. So, and earth cover. So this particular table is set for, and working through, trying to be conservative with this, precast box culvert design options for 0 to 20 foot of fill height. And then on the next page, there are some additions that from the working group. The terminology on the side there, side fill, overfill is an ASTM. We kind of debated whether that should, if we should try to match the 601 terminology, but again, it's kind of has an ASTM flavor. But yeah, construction wise, we're going to have 601 for the backfill and compaction and types of materials allowable. Still basically in the beginning processes here, so we'll continue to work on it in working group. But any thoughts, questions at this point?
Yeah, for the committee members, we could use some assistance on this case. I know Warren Chandler can use some assistance. So if you guys have any comments or thoughts on it, that would be helpful.
Gene?
Yes, sir. Ryan?
I guess the first question I have is I noticed in the specification under shop drawing submittals, it mentions that the contractor shall submit the live load. And I guess to me, that's more of a design issue. Is there somewhere in here that says what, if this is a precast box culvert, it's got to be designed or structurally designed for certain load already? Are there different details for different loading conditions, or are they all the same? And if they're all the same, then I guess it seems incumbent upon the designer to verify that the live load applicable will work for the detail. And I'm not sure the contractor has access to identifying the live load. I guess that's my first question or comment.
That is true, and that's something I think we're gonna have to work through. We're kind of getting into that, and if Adrian is on, we can talk more. But that goes back to that table for trying to come up with something suitable for 0 to 20 foot of fill height that would work. But yeah, I think we've got to revisit the
And that would apply to the dead load, right? As opposed to the live load.
type of situations too.
Yeah. So I think somewhere in here, if there's a construction detail, we need to predefine what load conditions apply to the detail as it's structurally designed. And then I had one other comment on the detail number 551-2. There's a bubble up detail for the typical section through box joint. And I'm noting where it talks about joint material by others, but I would not typically have a detail that references by others, because in the end, this needs to be a complete detail and not a detail for some manufacturer to manufacture box culvert. And then, this is for the contractor to install
Ready to go.
and put it in. So by others doesn't mean anything to me. All right. Thank you.
Good comment.
Yeah,
Adriana here with Rinker Materials. Two really great comments there, so thank you. We can definitely remove by others on that because that makes complete sense. The first question that you had was in regards to live loads, and on the first sheet of that detail, 551-1, we called out HL93 live load. So just like reinforced concrete pipe, this standard ASTM design is based off of a standard highway loading. So anything less than that would be, of course, conservative. So HS20 would be encompassed in that. So if the designer needs something with a Cooper E80 live load or aircraft loading, they would have to put that on the project plan so the manufacturer knows, and that would be a special design. So a professional engineer would have to sign and seal those if it exceeded that standard highway loading. So we mention it there in the note, and then we also mention it in the written specification as well.
Is that under, Adriana, is that under the 737.3 design requirement?
Yeah.
Yes, it's keep going up a little bit. Right there in 737.3 design requirements.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so essentially the designer would need to specify, of course, the culvert span and rise based on the hydraulic requirements for the project. And then they would have to essentially stay within that 0 foot of earth cover to 20 foot cover range. And then, of course, maximum live load HL 93.
Thank you for that clarification, Adriana.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to my original comment, which is the designer is responsible for determining if the detail is applicable or not. And if it is, and if it's specified on the plans, then the contractor just needs to provide what's in the detail. There shouldn't be a need for the contractor to start providing load information.
Well, essentially that would come from the manufacturer. Because usually the manufacturer will submit all submittal information to the contractor, and the contractor will relay that to the engineer.
Now that makes sense, right? It would come from the manufacturer.
They're just.
What's your
Yeah,
thoughts? I see the gears turning.
I feel like this specification is a great start, but it's turning more into not a construction specification. It's turning more into a project. It's directing how you're going to run your project, you know, as far as shop drawings and what goes in a shop drawing. And, you know, in the end, to me, standard details are exactly that. Here's the standard detail, build it per the detail, right? And if you're getting a shop drawing, you're confirming that the shop drawing matches the standard detail.
It's kind of redundant at that point. Is that what you're
So,
saying?
well, it's okay. You want to make sure that what they're providing matches the standard detail. I think that's fine to require a shop drawing, but then but yes, we're kind of going back in a circle here. Is how much information are you providing? I mean,
Having to go back to ASTM to look up information as well. I hear you.
this, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent.
And just to clarify there too, for designs not shown on the plan. So this is if it's it would be a special design, not the standard.
Yeah, if the detail's not called out, then the detail's not applicable. There's going to be some other specific detail and probably a specific specification associated with it.
That the engineer of record would come up with.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, and I think we can probably come up with a package that works in many cases, but then like Adriana said, then you get into that special case, it's gonna have to be designed on the plans, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I'm specifying a box culvert, do I also need to specify the flow rate that it accommodates? You know, it's just part of the design process. Or, you know, if I'm specifying a class 5 RGRCP pipe, do I have to specify the live load associated with that? No, it's part of the design process.
Or the roughness coefficient.
Yeah. So
it's already determined before.
So here's a detail. It says it's designed a certain live load. The designer needs to make sure that the detail is appropriate for the situation. And if it is and it's specified, then all we have to do is make sure that the submittal matches the detail. And how all the design parameters that went into it don't really matter from a shop drawing perspective. You're matching that the provided shop drawing matches the detail. End of story.
Agreed.
It's a simple way to do it. The onus has to be on the designer to ensure that the detail is correct for the application.
Thank you, Ryan. Adriana, you had a comment or a question?
Nope, those are all great comments.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like you have something to take back to the working group and just
We do.
and work
Thank
through.
This is Marty from McDowell. The specification slightly changed from what I downloaded from the site, right? Cause on the first page, go to the first page of specifications. Yeah, cause I gave this to, scroll down a little bit. To backfill,
That's true. I think.
second page, sorry, second page. So you changed it from 85% to 95%?
Agree.
Yeah, we decided that we want to stay in line with the MAG
Okay.
What was it, section 601, I believe?
Yeah, I forwarded this over to our structure branch and they was looking at it and they pointed that out. And also they, say that like ADOT uses 100%, for that. And also just, are you aware of the SD 620 for ADOT? Because that's what we're looking at using right now for the ADOT specification detail for precast.
Yes, we are aware of the ADOT standard detail 6.20.
Okay, just FYI, that's what McDOT intending and planning on using at the moment. So,
That was Marty that was
yeah,
speaking?
that was Marty from McDOT.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, okay. And our structure branch, I did give it to them. They did do like a cursory review because I just gave it to them yesterday. I mean, I seen it, so, and they made that comment, which you want to change to 95. And he also is pointing out you're referencing 601 and why not 6.20 for the ADOT details on that, but I could tell. For the on the detail. Detail. We was talking about the exposed reinforcement forecast in place, but I get back with him on that. Because he was looking at that, he just pointed it out. That is referring to 601 and not 620, but
Yeah, Marty, thank you for putting the time into it. This is a brand new case, so it still has
yes,
a little ways to go.
we are aware of a new case, so.
Yeah. Any other committee members have any comments they want to add for this case?
Hello, this is Josh Ford with the City of Buckeye.
Yes.
So looking over this, I have a couple comments, questions. So looking at 551-1, I see this interior corner chamfer, and in one direction it's labeled haunch, in the other direction it's labeled H. Where are those dimensions at?
Those are going to be in the last column all the way to the right, minimum wall / haunch.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the version on the website and I see that's been updated in there. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the old version too. So Josh, you and I both were kind of leading each other down the wrong path.
So is H the same as haunch?
Yeah, I got a little tight there, so I abbreviated it, but we can certainly write that out if that's confusing.
Yeah, that might need clarified either in the table or the detail that saying the H and the haunch are both the same value that we're talking about. Then in 551-2, I see in the spec language, it talks about that bedding being extended 6 inches minimum. Now looking at this detail, it's showing 6 inches kind of to a rounded end. Just curious if that should be shown as 6 inches of full continuous 3-inch bedding before it starts rounding off. Just a question there. And then is the bedding, speaking of the bedding, looking at the spec detail, it talks about all the things that are included in the payment. I see backfill and excavation. I don't see bedding mentioned. I don't know if we feel like excavation and backfill cover the bedding material or if bedding should also be thrown into what the payment covers.
Comments?
You get both of those?
Yep.
Okay.
Then I was going to ask about the 3-inch minimum between and what it was filled with, but I do see in the new detail on the screen it says non-street crown or CLSM. Is that like half sack CLSM? Is there a certain spec on that? Do we want to be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, good comments. I noted those so we can discuss that in the working group. CLSM, I don't know if there would be a specific type. It just needs to be a granular material that can, self-compact within that 3-inch spacing.
Last comment questions, just kind of dealing with, I'm curious about the length. What are we anticipating that these will be cast in terms of maximum lengths?
That depends on the manufacturer and what forms they have.
Okay. I'm curious though, because I'm thinking about what situations we may want to use this, and I'm thinking, well, let's say you had a fairly significant road that you wanted to limit closures on, and so maybe something like this would be useful. For your company organization, what type of links do you think you would be able to cast them at and transport them?
For us, anything from a 4-foot by 2-foot to I believe a 10 by 10 would be an 8-foot joint length, and then at 11, we would convert to a 6-foot joint just because of the weight of the section.
Okay, so you're saying like 6 foot. So this would come out, this would be a series of pieces. So if you needed to cross a major road, if you're looking at something like maybe an 80-foot or an 80-foot length or 100-foot length, this would potentially come out in, I don't know, 15 sections or something. And then you would be pushing them together as shown in the 551-2 detail.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All great comments and questions, definitely.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Josh. Any other comments from committee members? All right, we'll move, that was 25-2, right? Right. We'll move into agenda item number 8. These are outside right-of-way cases under consideration. The first one's going to be carried forward from 2024. This is the corrugated metal pipe underground storage detention retention tanks. I know the last meeting there was a lot of discussion about crushed rock and maximum size aggregate and engineer a record and submittals. I know Jeff had a great comment. Why don't you just require a submittal for the gradation and have the engineer a record approve the submittal? And then Josh, I recall Josh Ford had a couple questions or clarifications on a note that was in there. I'm sure you got all those. This is going to be brought to us by probably Jose, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
Jose,
Chairman.
all those comments from the last meeting and put them on paper or correct them, or what do you got?
Yes, yes. So to your point, the first comment that was brought up, which was a great suggestion, because we did have a lot of discussion. Just to reiterate, the last update that we had done, we had made an inclusion and a reference to the standard aggregate gradation sizes on the detail to kind of narrow down what is allowed. And we had also reduced the maximum aggregate size from 3 inches to 1.5 inches in all the gradations that from the standard STM table that meet that. But we also included in the specifications for this detail that ultimately the contractor needs to provide a submittal for review prior to backfill. And this is pretty much the same standard language that is in 601 right now. So, and in regards to the detail, there were some changes and corrections that was brought up by members of the committee last time. We still didn't correct all the right updates to the maximum aggregate size. So we did a lot of corrections to make sure it emphasizes that the maximum aggregate size is 1.5 inches. And then also there was a comment about making sure that we clarified the intent of the initial backfill, going 1 foot above the top of pipe, and that dimension was added. And the note, note number 1 under installation note was also modified to show that 1 foot is to the top of the finished surface.
Should that be minimum 1 foot or just 1 foot?
So it says in no case the cover will be less than 1 foot. It is a minimum.
Okay, so then on the illustration, on the drawing,
Mhm.
right there, Gordon. Yeah, it probably should say minimum 1 foot, just to be consistent with the note. Maybe.
Yes, we can add that. So 1 foot minimum.
All right, are those your updates?
Those are all the updates, and I think we've gathered a lot of great input from the committee. I'm not sure where if there's any other additional comment, and if not, I'd like to see if we can move this to a vote, or if there's some additional comments, or somebody would like to have a little bit more time to review this and get back to us.
Well, let's open it up to discussion then with the committee members at this committee. You guys, any committee members have any questions or comments regarding this revision or this case from 2024?
Chair, this is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. I had one comment that I think I had last time that it doesn't look like was maybe addressed. Not a critical item. I wouldn't say this would preclude if we feel like this should go forward today. But in the trench installation detail, there's 2 callouts at the top. One says landscape or pavement, see install note 2, and then there is a final backfill callout below that. I'm looking at the trench installation details of the callouts. Just trying to follow along on the screen. So in any case, it would seem like the install note 2 probably belongs more with the final backfill, since install note 2 is talking about referring to geotech report, civil and landscape plans for final backfill. So maybe there's a better place to put that reference to install note 2. But like I said, probably not a critical enough comment to stop this moving forward if that's the only item.
No, so the goal with that, Josh, is really to say, and we can definitely try to address the question if this doesn't answer, but the goal with that is that there may be cases where the tank is installed outside of a pavement area, right? So the detail, we don't want to be prescriptive of a certain backfill requirement above the initial backfill. So we don't want to prescribe, for example, a standard 95% compaction if it's not going to be under pavement.
Yeah, well, note 2 though is dealing with the final backfill, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was suggesting or saying it seems like the reference to install note 2 probably belongs with the final backfill call out in the detail view, or this really the trench section view.
Oh, I see your point. Sorry, I failed to see that. What we can do, we can also make a reference on the detail view and say see install note 2 under final backfill as well.
Well, there is a call out there, but I was looking at the section view on top. If you scroll to the very top one, so there's a see install note 2 for the landscape. And I was just, my point, I guess, was that seems like that would be better associated with the final backfill call.
Yeah.
So we can do it on both, right? Because that note 2 refers you to the landscape plans and the geotechnical report, right? So it applies to potentially both.
Yeah, sure, that's true. So
that's what I was saying. We could add an additional C note 2 right next to final backfill and the arrow pointing to the final backfill.
But just a minor comment, and if the committee wants to move it forward, I'd be happy to certainly vote for this to go forward, even without that being adjusted.
I think
If-
there are two, Jose, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is two minor, very minor corrections, the minimum 1 foot above top of pipe, just to be consistent with the note, and then the note 2 behind final backfill. I think if you can make those minor modifications, but we can still move forward with the case if the rest of the committee members are willing to do that.
Yes, I think as long as there's a vote, we can move forward with those minor revisions.
So back to the committee members, are there any other additional comments or questions regarding this case? Do you need, and that could be as simple as, I need more time to review it, if that's your case, so please speak up.
Who decides if filter fabric is required?
It's only optional when you're using, it's optional unless you're using the open graded rock fill as an alternative material.
Optional filter fabric for open graded rock. Yeah, it's in the note on, yep.
If it's open graded rock, then is the filter not optional? Because the way it's worded could be confusing, I think.
It is for me reading the detail.
We can clarify that language and say filter fabric required when using open graded backfill.
Yeah, I think that's we need to state that, so.
Okay.
Any other?
Great comment.
So that language on the last comment, Jose is gonna look like what?
Filter fabric required when using open graded rock fill as an alternative material.
Filter fabric required when using open graded rock.
Fill as alternative material. But now that it's 3 revisions and a little bit of a language, Gene, I don't have a problem if we just if I work on getting these updates and send it one more time so there's more comfort level.
I would agree.
Yeah.
100%. That was going to be my suggestion. All right. Well, great. We'll put that. It'll be up for information, discussion, and possible action for next meeting as well then, with those revisions, with those changes made. Yeah,
Okay.
just like modifications, right? It's not going to take long.
No, it shouldn't take long at all. As long as we get it done this year, right?
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Jose. Before I move on, is there any other comments or questions regarding the case? All right. Move into agenda item number 9. This is also outside of right-of-way. 24-D as in dog, infiltration trenches. It's to add new detail OROW 524 and section OROW 665. This one's brought to us by our working group, Peter. One thing I thought we had requested to put this up for action at today's meeting, and if that was the intent, my apologies. It did not get put up for action, but Gordon informed me that there may have been some revisions that came through that I'm not aware of. Do you want to speak on that, Peter? We don't have a Peter.
Yeah, I think Peter's on vacation this time.
Okay.
The only change that I'm aware of is it was pointed out at the last meeting that there was like a blob above the detail here, and that was removed.
There was a typo in the title from what I recall also.
Yeah, and that has been corrected.
Okay.
So it says infiltration trench.
Yeah, and then the blob, there was a black mark above detail option A.
So those are the only changes that I'm aware of.
All right, well, we'll put this up for action at the next meeting. Gordon, if you can do that, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
detail. Looks like there's a stray line that goes out, but I think it's right there, down below. Is that- Oh, that's the, okay, yeah. It's just the slope.
Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding this case for the infiltration trenches? Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to kind of beat it up and send it around. We'll look at voting on this at the next meeting, next month's meeting. All right, we're going to move into agenda item number 10. This is new outside right-of-way cases for 2025. The first one we have is the stormwater harvesting basins. This is to add a new detail that's brought to us by Scottsdale. Roy, you want to speak? You want to give some information on this case?
Most definitely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is as you mentioned, an outside right-of-way case. This has been discussed by the outside right-of-way group for multiple meetings. The last meeting we had, which I think was February, end of February, February 20th, they agreed to move this case forward. And so basically the stormwater basin, what it basically is, I mean, it's similar to a retention basin. It's used more for on-site, outside of right-of-way cases, many times adjacent to impervious areas such as parking lots and such. The intent for the stormwater harvesting basin is to basically collect and cleanse the stormwater before it percolated into the subsurface. This stormwater harvesting basin, and why it's kind of brought up now, it's actually kind of a combination of multiple outside right-of-way group details that we've already looked at, and some that are current cases and other ones that have actually been approved. So this detail combines the curb openings, the spillway treatments, the sediment traps, the infiltration areas, all as part of the harvesting basin. So the purpose of this spec and detail is to kind of give information on how all those different things work together, and in direction, obviously, on how to construct them. It's more of a putting everything together as a system, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds fun. When I hear harvesting, I think you guys are actually extracting water. That was my initial thought. I was looking in here for some kind of leachate pump or something to bring the water back up so you can use it somewhere else. But in fact, when it's described as harvesting, it's just basically giving it a place to percolate and infiltrate. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. And so what you have in front of you, you've got the detail 541, which is the actual basin. We've got a kind of the basin in an isometric view, kind of at the lower right-hand corner of the detail, and then a section AA kind of through the basin that would show how the different elements would work together, whether it's the curb openings going, I guess on the section AA going from left to right, we've got the curb opening with a possible spillway treatment down to a sediment trap. Then at the bottom of the basin, we've got an infiltration area that was actually part of the case, I think, that was just discussed right before this one, the infiltration area case, and then obviously you've got landscaping associated with the basin as well.
It looks like you're calling out a 4-to-1 max slope. So it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And the intent or the thought on that was just in case if this would be put somewhere where we do have any kind of vehicles or anything, it's a traversable slope, and maybe for erosion purposes as well. If somebody does have to come in there and perform maintenance in the way of mowing grass or whatever, they can do that much more easily on a 4-to-1 slope than something that's steeper.
Okay.
So yeah, this is just the first look here. I know for everybody. I don't know if anybody's really even had a chance to look at this yet, but certainly willing to open it up to the floor if anybody has any questions or comments.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Any of the committee members have any questions on this case or any comments on this case?
This is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. Not to be too overactive of a participant for today's meeting. So Buckeye recently formally adopted an LID manual, and we do have a stormwater harvesting basin in there. This is just kind of food for thought. You know, looking at this detail here, it makes it look like the infiltration area might only be a small, narrow component of the basin. If we're calling this a harvesting basin or something along those lines, it might be more appropriate to show that that area really could fill out the basin. I know in Buckeye's detail, for instance, you know, that there's, you know, bioswale engineered soil under the entire basin, including underneath the side slopes. And so the whole basin itself is truly kind of has that harvesting capacity rather than what's depicted here just kind of looks like, you know, that you're just putting more of like an infiltration trench in the bottom of the basin, maybe to help with some percolation or something. So now I do see in section AA, it says, you know, area as shown on plan. So I don't know if folks could kind of specify that infiltration area does fill the entire basin floor or even the side slopes if they have that option. But just looking at the way this is shown, it looks like it's only encouraging a narrow use. Couple other comments. Water surface as shown on plans. I know in the city here, we did limit that to 12 inches of ponding depth. And probably the reason for that is from our standards, if you start to go over that, it's going to be hard to infiltrate that naturally. And you're going to have to look at something like dry wells or something along those lines. I think the purpose of a detail like this would be to really use that you know, bioswale underneath to do all of the infiltration and to not have other dissipation mechanisms. And so you probably, you know, the water surface probably needs to be limited in these type of basins for that to work. So just a couple comments there.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh. Roy, do you have a response to any of those comments, or you just?
Certainly no, Josh. I very much appreciate the comments. Here at Scottsdale, we've also got an LID handbook. I don't know if it's the same or similar to the one that you've got, but ours does actually show for a stormwater harvesting basin, the infiltration area as being limited as opposed to the entire bottom or sides of the retention area. I just took a quick look on our LID handbook, where we've got the like the rock mulch or whatever throughout the entire bottom and the side slopes. In our LID manual, it refers to that as a rock bioswale. And so I mean, I'm open to one or the other. Either way, I think we've already, as a committee, I think we've already adopted a rock bioswale, which I think is part of the outside right-of-way group.
That is correct.
Plan and spec already, which I think does show that infiltration area is a much larger part of the entire basin. And so I don't know if we're looking at differences in definitions from one group to another. I would be happy to modify this however the committee would like. But like I said, the LID that we've got shows it as a smaller portion, and that but for what it's worth. And then with regards to the depth maximum, I think we can certainly probably do that as well. yeah, if the committee, if everybody agrees to the 12-inch max depth, we can certainly add that.
Roy, this is all being discussed within the outside of right-of-way working group, correct? As far as this thing transpiring in that group, correct?
Exactly. It's been in the group for, I want to say, several months, if not longer. And so it's at the last meeting we had on the I'm sorry, the 20th of February, that was when it was decided to move this forward, as there weren't any more comments on this from the outside right-of-way group at the working group meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense. It would be ready to put in front of the committee at that point for review. It is a new case. I think take these comments, constructive comments, back to the subcommittee. Have those discussions with the subcommittee, and we will, at that point, we can bring it back, make any kind of modifications that we feel are necessary, and bring it back to the main committee.
Most definitely.
Any other committee members have any?
This is Warren. Josh brought up one good point I wanted to kind of think about a little more. So in this type of situation, is the intent just to have the bioswale serve a particular basin, and you wouldn't have any other types of like dry wells like you brought up? And if you did want to have a deeper depth like you've shown, can you adjust the bioswale to accommodate, design it to a depth that you want to the volume you want?
So use the trench as part of your calculation?
Potentially, yeah. So one, either yes, you have dry wells in space, and then it's gonna work with bioswale, and obviously the dry wells are gonna drain as well. But then if you don't have the dry wells, then maybe that's the goal, and you would have the bioswale designed to handle the volume itself of the whatever flows.
Are you following that, Roy?
I'm not quite. I'm having a hard time hearing Warren.
Oh, I apologize. Let me try that again, Roy.
Okay.
So is this system meant for solely a basin and without dry wells?
That's my understanding, Warren, in the LID manual that we've got, and all the conversations that I've been a part of at the working group.
Okay.
The intent of this was not part and parcel with a dry well.
All right, well, and that works. So then if you wanted to have a volume, say the depth that you've shown, could you adjust and have a note say the size of the swale or the area of the swale could be designed to handle different volumes and depths?
Most certainly, and I guess the part of the call out on the detail where it said as shown on plans, where the plan would actually define, this is almost kind of more of a schematic that you would still have something in the plans that would define whether it's the limits of the infiltration area or the other items, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Any other committee members have any comments or questions regarding this case?
Roy, I just noticed on note 4, it says C specification 641. Probably wouldn't hurt to put OROW in front of that so people don't accidentally think it's a mag spec.
Great.
Good catch.
All right, will do. Thank you very much.
I think Jim Badowich is going to die on us there, Jim. Is that you talking? We don't want to lose you, Jim.
My apologies. I should have muted.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Roy, I was, obviously you'll bring this back to the subcommittee, to the outside of right-of-way working group. Hit all those bullet items that were discussed. I know we have one of our brightest in that group, so hopefully you're full of those. I know Peter, all you guys very, very educated in this department. So we'll be looking forward to having something back in front of the committee next month.
You bet. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Roy. All right, we're moving into other items. This is the working group reports. We'll start off with Jim Badowich with the Water and Sewer Working Group. You still with us, Jim?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we met on, I can't talk a whole lot. My voice is really hurting. So we met on the 18th of February. Went over the cases we've already covered. I was late, so I think, did you guys vote on the 2412 on corrective coding?
Yes, we did, and you were not present. You are correct, but it passed.
Okay, good. So we just had a little bit of discussion on that. It was pretty well packaged, ready to go. And we had a little talk on Warren's case 2413 on the cast in place concrete. I think we're just got some language we're just trying to formalize on the expansive soils issue. So I think we can wrap that up at our working group meeting next month with Warren and Jared from Blue Corps. And we had a little bit of discussion on the miscellaneous corrections, as you know, Gene, you were there. So on the 301 and the 303-2. So
Yeah, I can speak a little bit of that under potential cases if you'd like.
okay. And we didn't have much discussion on the PECs yet. That's coming. Warren's got that case as an alternate service for water services. We had some discussion on the video testing, sewer video testing, standardizing the gauge. We had an interesting discussion on Mandrill. Again, we got to make a determination on what we're going to, if we're going to match AASHTO or stick with what MAG says as far as the size of the mandrel. There's a mean, average, and then a base. We go with the more stricter one. I don't know, we might have some issues with that. Because MAG does say the stricter one, but apparently nobody's really doing that from what our research is showing. So. Now, I think what we're going to do is when we present this case, Gene, I think we're going to add an alternate for testing for laser profiling. I know that's starting to get more and more traction, as video testing was years ago. I think we need to provide that as an option.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jim.
With technology, I really think it works. So, I know it's a little bit more expensive, but it's like video testing, or was years ago. It was, and now it's the norm. So, I think we need to add that as an option. And I've been getting some good information from Adriana with Rinker, and so I think we're going to add that in there this time. We had some discussion from Adrian with Nina about revising manhole frame and covers. I think they want to present a case just to reduce the weight of the frame. I think the cover we're going to just leave. I think we've talked about that. There's concerns about making them too light, but where we can lighten up the frame. So we'll probably see that as a future case as well. That was about it. We've got our next meeting on March 18th. I guess due to facilities issues, it'll be online only. Is that still correct, Gordon?
Yeah, all the meeting rooms are filled here at that time.
Okay, so that's fine. We'll just do this. So the next one on the 18th, March 1:30 will be online only.
Show up in person, make sure you bring your laptop.
Yes. So. All right. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, outside of right-of-way working group, I know Peter, I heard rumor he's on vacation without us. Is there somebody that would like to cover for an update? Or that can cover?
I can just mention that the packet includes some brief notes of some of the things that were discussed. We did have a presentation on the Phoenix Green Stormwater Infrastructure Handbook. And some of the things that Phoenix is doing, it's kind of their LID handbook that's geared actually more towards residents, but it refers to some of their specifications and details. And since some of the ones that we're currently working on are the types of things that they were referencing, they may reference MAG details in that outside right-of-way handbook in their future updates. I'm not going to talk about the cases we've already gone over, but there was some additional discussion on the decomposed granite as far as using it on slopes, and also maybe some alternate material for horse trails or equestrian trails. Stormwater harvesting basin was already introduced. So I think that pretty much covers what the outside right-of-way group was working on, is a lot of the cases we already discussed.
Thank you for filling in, Gordon. All right, move into the asphalt materials concrete working group. Jeff, are you going to give an update, or Greg?
I probably will, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. So our meeting was on February 20th. The majority, thank you for pulling that up, Gordon. It's pretty much the three that we continued to work on. Looking at the Arizona test methods and what is referenced in MAG, coming out of the working group, and I have not forwarded this because I just got it yesterday, but it's a pretty, I don't think you can see it, but it's a pretty extensive list of test methods listed. While originally we were looking at it, we were thinking, oh, well, it's just going to be the asphalt or something along those lines. It's in a lot of different places. So we've got them identified. We've got the actual equivalent identified, and we'll continue to work on that at the working group. There's a good chance this case will make it in for next month's meeting. The other one that we had the majority of the discussion around is still around section 719 and 326, and rewriting the existing specifications to more in line with the EVAC specs as requested by some various West Valley agencies. In lieu of that, there's been a meeting, and I just forwarded it to Gordon. So there's a lot of people on this that are currently in the committee that have received an invitation. Next Wednesday at 1:30 at the ARPA offices, there's going to be we're hoping to get as much agency participation as we can from both sides, from East Valley cities and West Valley cities / agencies to attend, to kind of have a discussion on what exactly this looks like, because we kind of hit a little bit of a wall on what we wanted this to look like. Thoughts mostly on the acceptance side. Some of the acceptance stuff that the way it's handled in EVAC is different than the way MAG currently does it. And we just want to get consensus before we bring this as a case somewhat between agencies as far as the direction. Jim, I don't think you were on there, but I know Rob got the invitation on that as well. And Ryan, I believe you did. And I think quite a few on here did. But that one probably with kind of a separate task force meeting, if you will. And then the working group meeting coming up on March 20th, we'll continue to work on those. I doubt that'll be an April case. That'll more likely be a May one is kind of our goal. That was pretty much it. It took up a good chunk of an hour's getting through a couple things there. And our next meeting, as I said, will be March 20th at noon at the Arizona Rock Products offices listed at the top of that page right there that Gordon's showing.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I received that invite. Unfortunately, I'll be on fortunately, I'll be on vacation, but unfortunately, I'll be on vacation.
If you have any, and again, if anybody has any opinions on that, as far as what that should look like, if we should strictly mirror the EVAC one way or another, even if you can attend, Gene, we'd appreciate any feedback on that, because that's pretty much what the meeting is looking for.
I'll see if I can get somebody to cover in my absence, somebody, a materials guy that has good history, but I can't make any promises. But thank you for that update.
Hey, Jen, can I ask something real quick to Greg?
Sure.
Hey, is this just to talk about the potential of inclusion of EVAC
It's
into?
not 100% that, Jose, but we do need to get that. That's going to be part of the agenda. It's not the whole of the agenda, so to speak.
Is this gonna deal with the potential discussion about acceptance testing by like Mesa, Phoenix, and somebody else in the website?
You know, I know that is one part there too that we've discussed, but I don't know that was specifically on this item, but that would be great if everybody's in the room. That'd be a great topic to discuss that as well.
Okay, if that's not in there, probably hopefully we don't have it, 'cause I'll try to see if we can get somebody in there.
Okay, that'd
But
be great.
we're limited next week, and yeah, that's a bigger discussion at hand. I just want to make sure that's not
Yep.
happening next week. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Greg, this is Warren. Maybe if you could, I mean, I know Gordon's good about sending out the email blast when the meeting is, but if you could give just kind of a quick synopsis, like a scope of what the meeting is. I know I forwarded that to a few of my folks and they did attend the last one, but I just want to make sure.
So a little bit of it, Warren, is whether it's because Chandler and Gilbert, I'll talk a little bit more specifics. Queen Creek, we're trying to get some sort of clarification a little bit. There seems to be Mesa seems to handle the EVAC spec and apply it a little differently than the rest of the agencies do. Meaning not so much the spec, just the use of particular products in certain applications. Sometimes it's not always still in base mixes, let's say, per se. So we're trying to get a consensus on that. And so a little bit of that, and then B, what should this MAG case look like? Should it strictly follow design and acceptance as EVAC has it written, or should this be more along MAG? Because we've had that feedback in the past from Gilbert that they were talking, but then for now they're not. So we're just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. Since MAG's going to probably be in arrears of EVAC every year, we'd like to try and get as much out in front of it as we can. EVAC has told us, so Matt has told us that he's not making any changes for 2026. So if we mirror it in its entirety, those two should be pretty fluid together going forward. And that's still kind of the hope. So we're just trying to flush a few things out as kind of the agenda, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sound like Warren was asking for an agenda, but with a little more detail to it.
Yeah, he's provided.
Yeah, I don't know that there's one sent out other than just the topic. What it says in the email, yeah, would like to request participation in a task force considering these specifications and how it might fit. And that's basically it. And everything will kind of feed off of these two specs, whether it's application or design or acceptance.
Thank you, Greg.
Good.
All right. ADA working group. We have Warren and Jose. Who's going to be giving an update?
I'll kick it off. Jose and I had our first meeting last month and it was very well attended. Good cross-section of agency representatives, including ADA coordinators, and we had 3 engineering design firms attend. Adrian from NINA, which she was there as well. It was helpful to have kind of the product aspects of the truncated domes. So we had a good cross-section for the discussion, and we discussed more or less where we're at now with PROAG, with the current adoption, where DOT has adopted it. Still, DOJ is still we're awaiting the DOJ adoption. The DOT is really just for transit, but the goal of this working group obviously is to try to incorporate PROAG, whether it's adopted officially or not.
And be in
Just
front of
best
it.
practice, and be in front of it. So we're still going forward with all
Yep.
that. So we really jumped right into the cases that we kind of looked at, or draft material, and got right into the driveway detail that Jose had submitted, and talked about the potential new detail for the blended transitions, had a concept, and it seemed like everyone was on board to move forward with developing that detail. And then that detail for applying that 2-foot buffer to curb ramps where you don't want pedestrians to cross. Everyone's on board with that. Sounded like we were gonna most likely go with the DG and have some spec where you set the DG 2 inches below the concrete just so it doesn't bleed out into the road kind of thing. But then there'll be some room for some other discussion. It's all kind of at the basics or beginning now, so we got a lot more. So we kind of got into the details. We got into a discussion about that directional ramps, and there is obviously difference in opinion on the directional ramps. And for the most part, not a lot of us are in favor of when you have a directional ramp and the offset to the domes gets to that 5 foot.
Yep.
Because you really can have a pedestrian miss that. So a couple of those things, we had discussions that we weren't sure. So I had forwarded that to the Access Board, who is the author of the PROAG. And I did get some input, so we can talk about that next month. Maybe 2-foot offset max, which would pretty much prevent application of a directional ramp on many large radiuses, because that 5 foot is hard to, 2 foot is hard to achieve on a large radius. So we got a lot more discussion on the directional ramps in particular. And then what we'd like to do in the next meeting is, because like I said, we jumped right in, we kind of need to have everyone's input on kind of high level things that they want and we should change or update or add, and then we can kind of prioritize. There's only a number of things. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do in the next meeting. But Jose, what did I miss that we should be talking about?
No, I didn't know if you cover some of the language, because I think there was some discussion about how whether or not we should be making references to PROAG or not, because it's not technically adopted by DOJ. So that's something that the group has to probably have a little more discussion on it. And then some of the other things that we talked about is if there's anybody else that is bringing items relevant to the working group, this can be a first betting option since you got so many people. For example, here in the city, we're gonna be developing some ramps for bicycle facilities that kind of mingle with pedestrian facilities. So we can share some of that information as we're developing based on the workload. So, and if there's enough support, maybe they can go right into a MAG detail. So, but that was about it.
Are you sure that's it, Jose? Because it seemed like that was a lot for a first meeting.
It really was.
It really was, yeah. There's like with anything, right? There is a lot of different interpretations in PROAG, so definitely there's a lot more discussion on those directional ramps.
Yeah, you got all that. You have all this new stuff, the brand new ADA working group. You have all these topics, all these items, all these potential modifications, revisions sitting in a bowl. Just start sifting through them, right? One at a time, take the priorities.
We have Brandon Ori from Peoria, who was part of the last working group that we had back in 2016. So he's on board. So
yeah, that's an advantage.
Definitely good.
All right, so that's it on the ADA working group.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Jose. Move into agenda item number 12, potential cases for 2025. Just real quick brief. That detail 302-1 and 302-2. This is for the joint restraints detail. I met with the working group on that, myself and US Pipe, and we had some good productive discussion on the direction of which the detail should go, and kind of just got a feel from the working group on what they would like to see out of the detail. And I think we're all on board with, verifying a lot of these restraint lengths, doing some minor revisions to the LNR or to the actual, we'll clarify LNR, but we'll provide, I guess, clarity for the assumptions. That's the big key, is you never know what assumptions were taken into consideration when the calculations were performed. And then also address, Ryan and Jose both had comments regarding the overlap of joints, what you do there. So we're looking at all those topics. I'll have something in front of the subcommittee for their next meeting. But other than that, does anybody else, any other committee members have any potential cases for 2025 other than the ones that we've already discussed?
Yeah, this is Marty from McDOT. We will be removing our 2800 series details from the 28-inch guardrail for the next year. So we will be proposing revising section 415 to remove the 28-inch guardrail that's discussed. I have the draft that I can send to Gordon for the next month.
Okay. You said that was 415, 20-inch
Yes,
guard?
section 415.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Marty. Any other committee members have anything they'd like, they might be bringing?
This is Warren. I will be sponsoring the PEX-A case. Like to discuss that one more time in the working group and then probably bring it back for the March or the April meeting.
So PEX-A does not have an actual case number yet. Is that correct, Warren?
Not officially, right?
I did give you the case number. It's 2503. So you're next in the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be seeing something in the near future on that. All right, move into agenda item number 13. This is the staff report. Gordon, you want to provide a staff report to the committee, please?
Sure. One item I wanted to mention is that Meg has started a micro trenching working group, and you may have heard about it or been contacted or have other people in your agency that are agreed to serve on it. It started at the Meg Management Committee, and at their last meeting, they had a presentation provided by a staff member here, Maggie Wong, who is starting this working group. It is for kind of a bigger overview of microtrenching in general, as far as the aspects on, how it can be implemented, in the different agencies, how to get, fiber to homes for high-speed internet, but also the pros and cons of microtrenching and how it could affect your streets. And for our purposes, it may be specifications and details. A big proponent of it at the management meeting was the city manager of Mesa. And so they described Mesa's work in doing the microtrenching in their area. I did post that presentation online if you want to look it over. There's a few things that I wanted to mention that MAG is involved with. And the first is they're doing a peer research study to kind of see what other regions are doing as far as microtrenching and how they may have implemented it. There is the working group that's already been, some of the solicitations have gone out to the agencies. And so there's, I don't know, about 10 or so people so far from different agencies have agreed to serve on it. Some of the things that they're looking at are the coordination and communication aspects of it. But one of the things that we want to probably focus on is the technical standards, because that's going to be part of it as well. So if you have people that are serving on that group and you want to, help provide them with any of the technical information that you think is important, please do that. It hasn't started yet, but I think it'll be convening soon. These are some of the things that they're planning to do. So if you have any questions, you can let me know. If you're interested in serving, you can let me know. Maggie Wong of Meg, you can see her email address here. If you want to contact her for more information, you can do that as well. Any questions on that item?
Gordon, is the goal then of that group to create the package or a draft package of, say, details and specs?
No, I don't think that they would probably be doing that detailed of work. It would be more like determining, all of the aspects of what you would need to do to implement microtrenching in your agency. Mesa did a good presentation on that a while ago, and you heard them discuss how they had to deal with the coordination and also understand, maintenance issues, and also create the specs and details, which they've done. So that may be one of their recommendations, is that, yes, Meg should have a standard spec and detail that we can use region-wide, but I doubt if they're going to be doing that, they would probably task this group to do it if that's their recommendation.
And just to finish up with that, thank you, Gordon. And I think if you haven't had an opportunity to go through the presentation or even watch the management meeting, take the opportunity and watch it. It'll help kind of clear up the direction in which the city management or county management, the direction their marching orders and the direction that they're going with this. So what they've been tasked with, I should say.
Gordon, where would we find that on the MAG website?
I don't think it is on the Meg website yet.
Oh.
Well, the recorded meeting is on the MAG website for the city, for the management.
Oh, yeah, right. If you want to watch the management meeting, it's on YouTube stream.
On the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's on our YouTube channel. There's just like there is for the Specs and Details Committee, there's one for the Management Committee. The presentation that I just showed you is linked on our committee meeting page. So you can look at that presentation right here if you want.
If you want it in context with Ms. Wong.
Right.
She actually goes through the presentation in that management meeting. The last management meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But as far as the meetings themselves, I don't think they've scheduled the first meeting yet. I think they're still soliciting the agencies for people who are interested in serving on that working group.
Thank you, Gordon.
One other thing I wanted to mention, which is kind of in line with the ADA group that we just started, is that I just got a message from our active transportation person here at MAG who deals with things like the pedestrian bicycle planning and things like that. And they're looking at planning some sort of a workshop in the fall that's related to all these ADA activities. And they listed out about 8 or 9 of them. And when I was looking at them, I was thinking, well, this ADA working group is doing about 6 or 7 of those things. So that may be something that group or anyone on this committee may also be interested in. But again, that's kind of in the preliminary stages. Probably won't happen till this fall. But I think one of the goals of that group is to learn more about what the actual requirements are going to be per the ADA ProWAG, if and when it's approved, and how that might affect some of the things that we're doing.
Adopted and not approved, is that?
So I can provide more information on that when I get it, but if you are interested, I can keep you in mind to send out that information.
So just circle back with Gordon if you want more information on that. Thank you, Gordon. Is that
Yeah,
it?
that's it for today. Thank you.
All right, that was a good amount. Thank you. Moving into agenda item number 14, this is general discussion. I'll just open it up to the committee members for just general discussion related to specification, construction practices, or technology. Does anybody want to bring anything forward?
Yeah, this is Marty McDonald again. I usually don't speak, right? And I'm speaking today.
One more volunteer and I'm going to request you're in person.
Okay, I just got somebody wanted me to ask, are there any jurisdictions looking at moving from 4-inch traffic stripe to a 6-inch traffic stripe? I think this in the context to ADOT, abutting ADOT right away, where they use a 6-inch traffic stripe. So are there any jurisdictions considering moving to 6-inch? My general question.
I don't have any information on that. Maybe other committee members do, but I'm going to ask that question. And I think under general discussion, next meeting, let's ask that question again.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other committee members have a response to that question?
This is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. We're updating our signing and marking standards right now, and we are not going to go with that direction. My understanding, I think, is it's maybe a recommendation in the new MATCD, but long term, you know, that's extra maintenance responsibility and things to take on. And so at this point, we're not moving in that direction.
I don't think our roads are wide enough for a 6-inch. Is this that was a joke, but Marty, is this specific to being adjacent to ADOT's right of way or just as a whole?
I think it was as a whole, but then at the last minute, I think we're asking it as it's abutting to ADOT right away. In that case, if you're adjoining or adjacent to that, you'll have to match that at some point. But yeah, I was asking it, and I guess in both cases, you know, as a whole and then adjacent to ADOT. So
Yeah, that makes sense because once ADOT right away stops and municipality takes over, do you continue that?
you have to taper it to 6 inches or, but
All right, good question. I'll circle back with my transportation folks and ask that question.
thanks.
Any other items, topics, technology, any from the committee members? All right, moving into agenda item number 15. This is the request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from members for future agenda items?
Mr. Chairman, I think it may have been mentioned last month a little bit about ASUs. We had a Southwest Pavement Technology Consortium. I know there was, he did a presentation, I believe it was early last year. We've had there's been a couple new additions to it, Phoenix and Peoria. And just curious if the group would want a little, maybe 10-minute presentation or something, maybe at the next meeting or the one after, from Dr. Ozer.
What would the presentation be? based on?
Just kind of an update on where they're at and kind of what they're doing again to see if they garner any more support from non-joining agencies.
But specific to what product?
Oh, asphalt, sorry.
Thank you.
It's all in the Southwest Pavement Technology Consortium, and it's primarily focused on asphalt at this point.
Yeah, if you would like to pull together, if you'd like to bring in a 15-minute presentation, that's totally acceptable. I'm looking at, well, moving, you know, into the next comments from the committee. I was going to bring up the fact that I was going to try to get, probably not next month, but maybe May or June, bring in US Pipe for a restraint, to do a kind of a restraint presentation on calculations and whatnot, just to kind of to help really set the pin in for the modifications that we're doing to 303-1 and 303-2. But Yeah, Greg, we're open to a 15-minute.
Would that be for April or May, or is there a preference, or?
No, I don't think there's a preference. Find out what kind of availability the presenter has, and then circle back with MAG staff, with Gordon, and we'll get you set up.
Sounds good, will do.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Back to agenda item number 15. We pretty much went through that one. Or any other information for any other future agenda items under 15 request for? No. All right. Agenda item number 16 was the comments from the committee. Any additional comments or announcements from the committee members? Just informational purposes. Hey, I have something. Next week will be, for me, I never thought I'd say this, but will be 20 years of service for Glendale Engineering Division. Yeah, never thought that would happen.
Man, congratulations.
Thank you. All right. Well, the next meeting for the Standard Specification Detail Committee will be held on Wednesday, April 2nd. At 1:30 p.m. If you can be in person, that would be great. It'd be appreciated. With no further business today, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.